All right. To the season of clarity, where we're here to do three things. You know what time it is. We're here to uplift, educate, and elevate. I am your host, Adrian Townsend, or Mr. AT, whatever you feel like you want to call me. But tonight, it's not about me. It's about you. It's about how you want to get to the next level. It's about how you want to get to the next level of leadership or the next layer of leadership, because we understand that every a new level. So tonight, we're going to do these three things, right? We're going to do these three things in a segment series called Surviving Saul's Leadership. Did you hear me? Surviving Saul's Leadership. Last week, we talked about some dynamic things as it pertains to David and as it pertains to Saul. So tonight, I hope you're ready to be inspired. I hope you're ready to be encouraged. I hope you're ready to get your grind on. I hope you're ready to take some notes, some copious notes, as my mentor always said. But we're going to really kind of dive deep into the next part of this series. Last week, we talked about David, you were called, and how we can kind of extrapolate some of the things and some of the lessons that, you know, when you are going through your process of being called. And we understand that when Prophet Samuel poured the oil on David, you know, all hell broke loose. Tonight, we're going to be talking about all the hell that's going to break loose when you have been called, when you have been destined for greatness, when you decide to pick up your assignment. Expect the warfare. See, when you operate at a high level of excellence, when you start picking up what you've been called to do, all hell will break loose. And we're going to pick it up. I believe we're going to go to 1 Samuel as a foundation. As a foundation, we're going to go to 1 Samuel. And I want to go to verse 16. And I believe that this is going to apply to a lot of you. You may be in a season where you're fighting and you're wrestling with yourself, and you're wrestling with the better you or the greater you, the inspired you. Every morning you may feel that you need to do something more, right? That's the grace. That is the grace that you still have fire in you. That's the grace that you still got what it takes to get out there and get what you've been called to get, all right? To possess what you've been called to possess, all right? So I want to really start with a scripture foundation in 1 Samuel 16. And I believe this is a profound verse, right? And I'm going to start with verse 12. Yeah. So he sent and brought him. Now he was ruddy and bright-eyed and good-looking. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. Let me give you guys a context of what this is talking about. This is talking about when David was called out of the field by prophet Samuel, and his father Jesse overlooked him. And last week, we talked about how you may have been overlooked. You may have been misunderstood. They don't understand what is something about you, but you've been still called. God calls he doesn't call the qualified, but he qualifies the call. That's kind of what we extrapolated from last week, right? But tonight, we're going to really dive deep into after you get the calling, after the oil has been poured on you, after you start picking up your assignment, right? And this kind of goes more deeper into it. So just to kind of give you a context of what's been going on. So this is when Samuel gets the horn of oil and begins to pour it, right? He begins to pour it on David, right? This ruddy kid. This is the time and the season where David was in his process, when David was building. This is the time when David was dirty. This is the time when David was grinding. This is the time that no one recognized him. This is the time in the season in David's life where he didn't have the crown. This is the time in David's life when people were overlooking him. This is the time in David's life when people said, man, listen, that guy, matter of fact, that guy has nothing planned for his life. He's not qualified, right, to be in the house. This is the season I'm talking about today. For most of you, you may be in that same season. You may be in that season where you're grinding and you're being overlooked. You may be in that same season where you're doing all the right things that you're supposed to do, and it's not panning out the way you expected it. This is the season where you're sowing the right seeds and you're not reaping the harvest just yet. If you're listening to this broadcast tonight, this morning, or this afternoon, this is for you. I'm talking about those entrepreneurs, those grinders, those visionaries This is going to be for you tonight. So I need you to hit that share button. I need you to hashtag SOC. SOC. If you hashtag it and share this post, I will be giving away a free gift, a free PDF file, something that has helped my wife and I extrapolate some principles that we apply to our personal life and business. All right. So if you share this and hashtag SOC, we're going to be giving away something tonight that's going to bless you amazingly. All right. So verse 12, we're going to, for those who are just joining, thank you. We're going to 1 Samuel 16, verse 12. And this is when Samuel was calling David out of the field and he was anointing him. And I'm going to repeat it. So it says, so he sent and brought him, right? Now he was ruddy, talking about David now. He was bright-eyed and he was good-looking. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. Are you the one in this season? Yes, are you the one in this season? But let's dive deeper. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. I want to stop right there. See, when you're in this season, when you start picking up your assignment. Now, I want to dive deeper into what I mean by picking up this assignment. I'm talking about when you decide, right, when you make a decision to stop being average and you start stepping into a season where you start executing on the things that you may have been procrastinating in. And I understand, like, listen, man, I get it, right? When we're talking about execution, we're not talking about executing on everything. I'm talking about executing on the thing that you've been called to execute. And you may be trying to distract yourself from the very thing God have told you to do. For some of you, it may have been you trying to write a book. You've been trying to write a manual. You've been trying to start a business. You've been trying to go for that promotion. You may feel like how David was perceived as ruddy, as bright-eyed, someone that may have been in their adolescence. You feel that you're not qualified. You feel like you don't have the paperwork. You may feel that you don't have the strength or the vitality to go forward in your calling. But just like this, it says that the Lord said, anoint David, this young kid, this person that did not have the stature. By physical appearance, he did not have the qualifications, but the Lord still said, anoint him. Anoint him. And when you understand this is when you have been anointed, when you start picking up your assignment, you will begin to attract the attack. You will begin to attract the attack. See, the attack doesn't come. The attack doesn't come. Catch this, until you decide to move in excellence. When you decide to move in excellence, the attack comes from all shapes and all forms. And as a matter of fact, it comes in all sizes. As a matter of fact, it comes in the most strangest ways. And as a matter of fact, some of my mentors always said that something that blessed my life. And for you who may be experiencing unusual warfare in your life, typically unusual warfare is a sign of the importance of an up and coming event. I'm talking about something big is about to happen in your life. Something big is about to transpire in your life. And what the enemy wants to do, he wants to derail. He wants to distract. He wants you to get focused on the thing that you're not supposed to get focused on, because there's something big that's about to happen in your life. I will always tell this story on how many years ago, when I was first ordained as a minister of the church that we go to, the Harvest Center, I was this young kid. I felt unqualified in me, but my leader, Rufus Smalls, believed in my wife and I. And so he ordained us after a season of testing. And obviously we went through a process through counseling. But there was a time where I was requested to speak or minister, right? There was a time where I was expected to speak and minister. And it was crazy because I was currently working at a car dealership and I was on a test drive. And I was called to preach that Sunday. I was called to talk about a specific topic on that Sunday. And I believe this was maybe a Thursday or maybe a Wednesday or Thursday. And I was doing a test drive on one of the new vehicles that just came off the truck. And lo and behold, as I'm on this test drive, family, I get blue lights behind me. Check me. Unusual warfare. Catch me. Listen, blue lights hit me. I pull over to the side. Now, listen, granted, I've changed my life totally. I'm in a I think I was in a blazer. I had a tie and a dress shirt on and some slacks on, some nice wingtip shoes. You know how it looks, right? So I'm expecting to get away with this. I'm expecting to say, okay, hey, listen, maybe you may have, maybe I didn't hit the blinker or something like that. But lo and behold, from the past, from years ago, I may have forgot to pay a ticket. And the officer says, you know what time it is. You know what time it is when they say, okay, be right back. The officer says, listen, Mr. Townsend, I want you to step out the vehicle. We have a warrant, catch me, for your arrest. I'm talking about unusual warfare. I'm talking about at least 5 to 6 years, of a changed life. But I stepped out of the car in my blazer, and my tie, and my dress shirt, and my slacks, and my wingtip shoes. And I said, I guess I got to abide by the law. And would you believe, I said, well, man, what am I going to do? Because I have what? I have to minister on Sunday. But for those, you may not know, but if you get arrested on a Thursday or a Friday, you might as well call that a weekend. So I was unsure of how this was going to pan out for me. So I ended up getting admitted. Obviously, in the Charleston County, when you get admitted, it takes 4 hours to get in and go through the process. So I ended up having to see a judge that next morning. As a matter of fact, it was a Thursday because Friday was the day I had to go to the judge. And this night, I was literally, I wouldn't say I was anxious. I didn't say I was fearful, but I was worried on how this was going to pan out because I was called to preach. I want you to catch this because I was called to preach on that Sunday, right? So lo and behold, I didn't even sleep that night. And I ended up going before the judge. The judge ended up giving me a PR bond, and I ended up getting out. And I paid that ticket that I needed to pay, and I was able to finish my assignment. That's a story, guys, to let you know that when you are approaching something that's very significant, that is a story that kind of signifies where most of you may have been going through. The minute that you begin to pick up the assignment, the attacks will come. I have a quote here. When you pick up your assignment, you will pick up enemies. I want you to hashtag that. I want you to put that in your timeline. When you pick up an assignment, you will pick up enemies. Catch that. When you pick up an assignment, you will pick up enemies. When you ask God for a future, he will schedule an enemy. Because after this, family, and I believe this is 1 Samuel 16, goes into verse 17. We talked about David then being confronted by Goliath, or I should say, David then positioning himself and God working it out to where he had to face a giant. He had to face a giant. Case in point, I want you to catch this. Like, I know they hate you. I know that they dislike you, but I need you to know that they don't dislike you. They dislike that it's for you. They dislike that it's you who have been gifted with something about yourself. It's not the fact that it's you as the person. Yes, Adrian, it's not that it is you, Adrian. It's that what you carry is what you carry. It aggravates people, or I should say things, right? Or evil spirits. It activates these things in people, or I should say emotional triggers in people, when it reminds them of all the opportunities that they missed. So if you feel that when you begin to start picking up what you've been called to do, when you start believing in yourself, see, none of these things typically took place when you didn't believe in yourself. None of this warfare, none of the hate took place when you was average. None of this took place when you were making $7.25 an hour. None of this took place, right, when you were driving, right, that Pinto. None of that took place. But the minute that you start being successful, the minute that you start making a decision to move forward, they start hating on you, right? And hate doesn't necessarily means the words that comes out of the mouth. It means it's all hate in most cases gives off an energy. Hate in most cases gives off an energy. See, you may be around people that may be in your life. They've been around your life for so long. You have been failing to see what God has been revealing to you about your associations. I'm talking about, when you started getting that, when you got that new job, when you said, hey, listen, I want to start a business. When you say, hey, girl, listen, I'm going to start dressing different. When you started saying, girl, listen, I'm going to change my hairstyle. When you start saying, girl, I'm going to start a business. When you start, girl, I'm going to go for that manager position. When you start saying, man, listen, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to quit this job and I'm going to go move out of state. When those decisions start taking place in your life, all hell's gonna break loose. See, understand the minute that you get close to your harvest season, understand that harvest is work. Harvest is work. Harvest is work. See, giants, see, when David confronted Goliath, that was a pivotal point in his life. And for you, you may have to face something that's bigger than you, something that's larger than you. It may be a task. It may be a business. It may be an idea. It may be something that you feel, and I'm dealing with it right now. I have something that I feel that's bigger than me, but it's on the other side of what appears by physical stature bigger than me. There's the breakthrough. See, the kingship comes when you decide to deal with your giants. See, understand that David had to deal with Goliath, right? He had to deal with Goliath in order for the credibility to come, in order for them to say, well, listen, he qualifies, he passed the test, right? Because he didn't put his trust in Saul's armor. Because if you read the passage, Saul said, listen, if you're going to fight this giant, I'm going to go ahead and give you my armor. And David said, listen, I can't do warfare in your armor because it's not for me, but I'm going to use what is already in my hand to defeat my enemy. Some of us have been trying to fight with other people's armor. Some of us have been trying to fight life's battles with other people's solutions. And get it, yes, we take advice, we take counsel sometimes, but most of the time, God is speaking to you in so many different ways. Your solution in most cases may not be their solution. This is why we should not get into the place where we start comparing our chapter 10 with someone else's chapter 25. We should not start trying to compare someone's online success, catch this, with someone's offline battle. See, I know sometimes you go on Facebook, you start scrolling, you go on Instagram and you start scrolling, and you may notice that they don't like your posts. You may notice that they don't comment on your information. Don't worry, baby. Listen, I want you to understand that some people are not going to respond in this season. Some people are not going to respond in this season. They need to believe that you are the real deal. They need to know that you're the real deal. But I want to help those who out there. This has helped me in the past, but I need you to understand this. When you are going through all hell, after you have decided to pick up your assignment or what you've been called to do, I need you to understand that you're going to go through several phases. I want you to write this down. I'm going to briefly go through this, and I'm going to close this real quick, okay? You're going to go through several things that's going to, at the end of it all, going to solidify you as someone who is ready for the next level. I'm talking about if you're trying to launch a book. I'm talking about if you're trying to launch a business, if you're trying to be a leader in your retail establishment, if you're trying to step into a promotion, right? I'm talking anything that you're looking to get involved in that has a tag to it of next level, right? You're going to have to endure three things. And I want you to write this down, babe. Listen, tag this for me below because I believe this is going to help someone. If you're looking to go to the next level in any area of life, you're going to go through first being violently opposed. Violently opposed. All right. That means people are going to tell you that you cannot do it. People are going to tell you that, man, this is not for you. People are going to say, man, listen, you don't have the credentials. They're going to say you don't have the resume, right? People are going to violently oppose you. Number two, if you survive that, I want you to hashtag this. Write this down for me, babe, or type it below. If you are going to go through that first, being violently opposed, number two, you're going to be, catch this, you're going to be ridiculed. You're going to be ridiculed. They're going to talk about you. Most cases, when you walk in a room, everybody gets quiet. Everybody says, listen, hey, man, hey, they smile in your face, but you feel it. There's a feeling that takes place. When they hate the moves that you make, they may vocalize something different. Like, girl, man, you're doing great. Man, listen, my boy, man, you're doing fantastic. But there's a feeling that you get that you cannot explain. See, listen, this may help somebody. Catch this. I want you to catch it. This may help someone. One of the biggest signs that you are doing what you've been called to do in the midst of people hating you in the midst of them backstabbing you, I know in most cases you're wrestling to see if this is something that you should continue. You may feel that is this something that's worth me losing friendships? Is it worth me losing people that I've been with, that I grew up with, that I started the grind with? Is it worth me continuing it? Because as you move forward in your next level, as you move forward in your ideas, your concepts, as you move forward with wanting to go to the next level, you may want to go to an income level of 6 figures. You may be trying to go for a goal of reaching $1 million. You may go for a goal, right, of producing a product or providing a service. Is it worth me losing friends? I'm here to tell you, family, anybody that's not there to support you, right, in the times that you're grinding, should not ride in a limousine. I'm talking about if they're not willing to ride the bus. I was listening to a podcast the other day. My wife and I, and Oprah said, listen, if they're not willing to ride the bus with you, they cannot ride in a limo with you. Listen closely. Listen, if they hate you, right, and they're close friends and family members, that doesn't mean that you should excommunicate them. You should loose them from your life, right, slowly, but doesn't mean that you should X them out. It just means that you need to prioritize your time away from those individuals, because it is going to be them that life will be changed once you go through your season, right? When you get on the other side, you can therefore come back. When you get on the other side of money, you can therefore bring your family up. When you get on the other side, you can therefore bring your homeboys up, your homegirls up, and your whole next generation up. So keep going, keep pressing. And after number 2, being ridiculed, number three, you're going to get into a season of being in what they call self-evident. What do you call self-evident, Adrian? I'm talking about you having an iPhone. I'm talking about you having an Apple product. That's called being self-evident. I'm talking about these laptops that we have, the MacBook Pro. It's self-evident in the marketplace, right? I'm talking about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. These are all products. Smart TVs. These are all products that went through all of these phases. I'm pretty sure. As a matter of fact, I remember a story of a gentleman telling me, like, listen, man, I remember when we first started selling cellular phones back in, I believe, I can't remember, I think it was the 80s or early 90s. And it was the bag phones. And he had the opportunity to be in a small group of people that were about to be the first people to distribute cellular phones, the bag phones. And they were going to get a percentage, right? 90s, yes, they were going to get the percentage of every minute that someone was going to make a call, and that they will be multi-millionaires, because everybody in most cases will begin to have this mobile device. He said, no, I don't believe it. I think everybody's going to go to the pay phones. I believe everybody's going to have the beepers. They're going to still have it. Listen, one thing that's consistent in life is change. I want you to write that down. One thing that's consistent in life is change. Man, I need you in this season. I need you to keep grinding despite them hating you. I need you to keep going, right? Despite, and understand this, it's not that they hate you, it's that they don't understand you. When people begin to not understand you, especially family members, especially close friends, especially siblings, people that you may have went to high school with, people that was your road dog back in the G with, right? These people may not understand a new version of you. And it's not for them to understand that. But in your latter years, as they mature, as their mindset begin to change, they may come around. So that's what I meant by you don't have to X them out. You just may have to X them out in this season. But listen, I wanted to really extrapolate this, man. I remember those bag phones. Chris Jamison says, Fred Noble says, one thing that's consistent in life is change. Man, listen, one thing that's consistent in life is change. Be ready for it. Be ready for it. So y'all got 3 things, right? Hopefully y'all got it. Number 1 was what? Being violently opposed. Number 2 was ridiculed. Number 3 is become self-evident. When you become self-evident, you have stood the test of time. You have stood the test of time, man. So listen, while they hate you, let that heat mold you into a diamond that you've been created to be, man. Listen, while they hate you, let that pressure be on you so that you can, so that coal can turn into a diamond. So you can turn into something that's valuable to the marketplace, because wealth is associated to value. I don't want you to forget that wealth is associated to value. So how much value do you bring to the marketplace? Well, how you have value if you've never been through nothing? How do you have a message without mess? How would you have a testimony without going through a test? This is your boy Adrian Townsend. I need you to hashtag SOC for Season of Clarity, where we're here to do three things. You know what time it is. Uplift, educate, and elevate. Listen, I got podcasts. Yes, the podcast is about to launch, baby, on Apple Podcasts. You know, on all platforms, Spotify. We're looking at some other platforms as well. But make sure you check out the YouTube page, Adrian Townsend Speaks. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. I will follow back at Adrian Townsend Speaks to catch some inspiration and some elevation. Let's go. Be inspired.